today, you're the youngest founder that we've ever had on. How does it feel for you, like being 26 and having the level that you have?
Relatively speaking, I know nothing and my best years are ahead of me. I was constantly met with the same response, which was like, who the hell is this 19-year-old kid? I was very insecure, I was pretty shy, massive introvert. I almost created a kind of persona that I just had to become. The biggest problem at that stage is people don't trust you and you need case studies to get them to trust you. The easiest way to do it is just at every single price point, someone thinks it's a rip-off and someone thinks it's a bargain. You might as well charge the fees that you believe you're worth and go after people who will pay them.
Today, you're going to meet Sam Winsbury. Sam is our youngest ever guest to date. Aged just 26, he is the CEO and founder of personal branding agency Kurugo. In the interview today, Sam is going to be sharing with you the exact content strategy that he has used to build his own personal brand on social media, on LinkedIn, from 0 to almost 60,000 followers, the outreach strategy that him and his team use to now get to a stage where he is scaling his business to a revenue of 1.5 million. And finally, how he has built a business with 19 employees at the age of just 26. Welcome to Don't Work Harder, the business show brought to you by Atomic, and I'm your host, Suman Randhawa. This is the show where we teach you how you can take huge leaps in your business, not just by working harder, but by working braver. Sam, great to have you on. Finally, we get to meet in person. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
Excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, what was really interesting for me is today, you're the youngest founder that we've ever had on. How does it feel for you, like being 26 and having the level that you have? And I'm just going to set the scene here. Every time I ask you how many people you have on your team, it goes up by 1. So I think when we started chatting, it was 15. We're now at 19, right?
Yeah.
How does that feel for you then, to feel like you're 26 and this is your story so far?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really read into it too much, to be honest with you. It's very exciting and I do have to remind myself that I'm in a very fortunate position. I'm very grateful to be here. I think the challenging thing is this sounds like a very, very privileged thing to say, and to be honest, it is, but I compare myself to a lot of other 26-year-olds who are far ahead of me.
Wow.
Because I'm fortunate enough to have them in my network. So it's, I don't think about it too much.
Okay.
But at the same time, it's exciting because I know, relatively speaking, I know nothing and my best years are ahead of me. So I'm excited by that. And I love the fact that I'm still young and naive.
So when you kind of think about what you teach others, what did it come from? How did you know that this could be a business for you coming straight out of university? Like, oh, okay, I'm 21 and I'm actually now going to teach this to people who may have been running businesses for many years.
Yeah. Well, what it was when I was at uni, I was trying to get all sorts of freelance marketing projects I could just to get me a little bit further in my career. And I would do everything to try and get these projects. I would go to local events. I would send emails to local business owners. I'd be sending messages on Facebook. And I was constantly met with the same response, which was like, who the hell is this 19-year-old kid? And why do you think you can help me? And fair enough, right? I get it. But I like to think I probably knew more about social media than some of these business owners anyway. So I, as a last resort, went to the most businessy place I knew, which was LinkedIn, of course, and started posting content around what I knew and what I was learning on there. So I started doing that as a last resort. And what actually happened was, the more I posted, people would actually reach out to me and say, hey, I've seen you posting. Can you help me with my profile? Can you help with my content? And that taught me two things. Firstly, that people actually take notice when you publish content online, and publishing content online is a great way to prove your expertise, much better than a 30-second intro at a networking event or a cold email. But also that other business owners were interested in this and there was an opportunity to help them. So that was the kind of spark, and I coached, consulted a few people whilst I was at uni. As soon as I graduated, I thought, look, people are interested in this. I think there's going to be a big opportunity here. Read a book called Key Person of Influence by a certain Daniel Priestley. And that sort of cemented in my mind that this was going to be pretty important. Don't think I could have said that it would be as big as it is today, but I certainly knew there was something there.
What did you know about confidence when you were thinking, I'm going to be speaking to people who are probably far more successful than I am at that stage? How much did that require you to tap into a different level of confidence?
Yeah, it was really tough because honestly, I was not a confident student at all. It sounds like I've always kind of been quite confident, but I was not. I could barely leave my uni flat without, second guessing what I was wearing at the time. I was very insecure. I was pretty shy, massive introvert. And then suddenly, as you said, I'm speaking to these business owners who run multi-million pound businesses. It was almost like I just went into this zone. I almost created a kind of persona that I just had to become whilst I was speaking to them. And I did that so many times that it started to become a lot more natural. And then you get the reps in and people actually start to listen to you, and it kind of creates this self-fulfilling prophecy, and your confidence builds quite naturally. And I'd say now I'm a very confident person, but it wasn't always like that.
Yeah. And you shared, and you've kind of shared online, that within 18 months to 2 years, you were doing 50K revenue months.
Yeah.
What steps did you take to get those first clients in? So you said some people, you were posting online, people were coming to you. What else were you doing at that stage?
Yeah, I guess level 0 is failing for 2 years before that.
Okay.
Going to the networking
and that
events.
context is actually really important, isn't it? Because actually the figure we see is, oh, wow, within 18 months. But so it was 2 years of level 0 and then the next 18 months, 50K months.
Yeah, I think from the point where we started the agency, or when Kurugo as it is existed, it was 18 months, but there was 2 years of trial and error, 3 failed projects before that. So I didn't just become an entrepreneur and get to that stage quickly. I had kind of a lot of background to it. But yeah, then after starting the company, it was 18 months to get to that stage, which was pretty cool. The first few clients, I just worked for free or cheap, to be honest. And I'm a massive advocate for doing this if you have the opportunity to do it. I get that not everyone is in the position to do so, but me as a recent grad living off a student loan, I had the opportunity to do it, and it was one of the best things I've ever done, because I didn't need to charge ridiculous fees. For some people, I even worked for free just to get a foot in the door. So the biggest problem at that stage is people don't trust you, and you need case studies to get them to trust you. So you're in this kind of cycle that feels impossible to get out of. The easiest way to do it is just de-risk it for people.
So the key decision that you feel was the most instrumental for you was getting stronger case studies.
Yes. And having people that would advocate for you. So, I mean, one of my first clients, it might be my second or third, I think they paid £300 a month for me to write their LinkedIn content, which for reference is about a tenth of what we'd charge for the same thing today. But that client introduced me to 4 more clients. They posted about me on LinkedIn. And I've probably signed in our lifetime 10, 11 clients just from that one.
Wow.
So, it's a trade-off at the time for all the returns later.
And if someone is thinking of, kind of how they can kind of break out of that place where they're struggling to get clients, if you were to kind of like think about what the key elements are when you are building case studies, what is it that you were asking for in return?
It's got to be conditional, right? So I would say, look, we'll do it for a certain amount of time. For me at the start, I said to some people, I'll do it for free for 30 days. And if you like it, maybe we can carry on in a paid arrangement afterwards. If you don't, no problem at all. So putting some sort of condition like that on helps. But also you can say, look, I'll do this for free. All I ask in return is, if you're happy with the results, can I have a testimonial and can I make a case study out of this? And pretty much every business owner, if you reach out to them and say that, is going to say yes. Right? If they don't, well, you just go to the next one, and you can't read into it too much if they say no.
So how did you go then from charging £300, because actually that's a lot of £300 you'd need to get the 50,000 months, to being able to bring in enough revenue where you were finally hitting those 50K months? What was that transition? We're going to take a short pause to hear from one of our sponsors. Sponsors help us make the best show possible. Don't Work Harder is sponsored by Constant Contact, the digital marketing platform built with small business owners in mind. With Constant Contact, you can grow your contacts list, send out more emails, organise social media and events, and simply get more done with their advanced automation tools. It's everything you need to grow your business, advance your automation, and attract more of the right customers all in one place. Visit constantcontact.com to get started. So how did you go then from charging £300, because actually that's a lot of £300 you'd need to get the 50,000 months, to being able to bring in enough revenue where you were finally hitting those 50K months? What was that transition?
Well, there was one point that stood out where myself and a competitor were pitching for the same client, and the competitor slightly further on in the journey than me. They've always been very good to me as well. We don't really treat each other as competitors.
Mm-hmm.
And I was speaking to them afterwards, and they said, "What did you pitch for that project?" I said £400 a month, and they said, "Just so you know, we charged quadruple that or 5 times that or something."
Right.
And I was like, okay. At that point, I realized maybe we should be charging a little bit more for this. That people will pay a lot more. And over time, I started to realize the value we were having far exceeded what we were charging. So that was the point, really. And we didn't just jump from 300-400 quid a month up to 2, 3, 4,000. We did it gradually. So, you get a few clients in at £1,000 a month, and then you go to £2,000, and then you go to £3,000 and so on. So we built it up gradually over time. But that moment was a real eye-opener for me.
And again, that's like really interesting, because you get those people who say, well, you need to go in at those numbers, you need to believe the big numbers and charge it. Whereas you approached a more incremental, like, I'm going to do this in steps. If you were to look back now, knowing what you know now, would you be as cautious with the steps that you took? Or do you think you would have gone in?
I would have added a 0 on the end.
You would have done that. Yeah.
The thing I've noticed is we've charged 300, I've charged 3,000, I've charged 30,000 for projects. At every single price point, someone thinks it's a rip-off and someone thinks it's a bargain. So you might as well charge the fees that you believe you're worth and go after people who will pay them.
Okay, so I'm definitely going to ask this question then. So what do you think is the key to finding people who will pay?
Go after people that have got more money is the obvious one. It sounds like a strange thing to say, but it's true. To a 10 million, 100 million quid business, £3,000 a month they won't look at it. They won't realize. To someone that's, just starting out, that's everything to them. So you have to realize that the price you're charging is not an absolute number. It's a relative number to the people you're going after.
Yeah.
Typically, the larger the business as well, the bigger the impact of the work you're going to have is for them, right?
So very true. Yeah.
We work with, global companies now where they have hundreds of thousands of customers. The impact of their CEO or leadership team having a personal brand is, positive reputation amongst hundreds of thousands. Compare that to the person that's just getting started. It might just be their friends and family.
And when we talk about personal brand, what is that for you? Like, when you're offering that as a service, how does that get delivered? What is it?
Yeah. So for us, how we look at personal branding is it's about framing the skills, experience, expertise, personality, and values you have in the best way possible. So a lot of people, they already have these things. We're not faking anything or forging this false reputation. We're just taking what you already have and presenting it online in the best way possible to give you the reputation you deserve. So the 3-part system we go through with our clients to do this. The first thing is what we call positioning.
Okay.
So positioning is about how you articulate those skills, experiences, the things that make you credible. We then amplify it. So that's the second stage, which is about getting it in front of as many of the right people as we can.
Yeah.
We do that through organic content, earned content, and paid content. And then we try and convert that into opportunity. So conversion is the last part of the model. You take the attention and the trust you've built online and you use funnels and ecosystems to turn that into opportunities, whether that's clients, customers, podcast invites, whatever it might be.
And your business, like, you're the sole founder.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're talking about 19 people. Are they a mixture of freelancers, employees? Like, what model have you taken with your team?
So all 19 of those are full-time. We have fully remote and flexible working models. So some of them are outside of the UK. So those people are on contract basis purely for legal purposes. They can't be PAYE. But everyone's treated exactly as a PAYE employee would be. Same benefits, same pay. So yeah, 19 full-time.
So how do you know how to run a team when you've only ever run your business? And I don't say that in a disparaging way at all, but it's almost like, how do you know what you're doing? Like, how did you work that out? Tell me, please.
I just messed it up enough times, to be honest. I've never even had an interview, which is interesting, but I've interviewed 25 odd people, hired 25 people. So that's strange in and of itself. But yeah, to be honest, I've made so many mistakes, and there's things that if I went back, I kind of wish I could change, and things I'd do differently. People maybe took advantage of the fact that I didn't know how to run a team in the early days. So there's lots I wish I could change, but the honest truth is I've just messed it up so many times that I kind of know what I'm doing now. I still don't think I'm the best leader or manager in the world, but I've just learned through reps and mistakes.
And what was kind of like one of the standout moments? Obviously, we don't have to talk about an individual, clearly, but like, what's a standout moment that you can remember quite early on with the team where you're like, okay, this is not going to plan? And what did you do to turn that around? Because I think that's quite useful to hear for people who are looking to expand a team but don't necessarily feel they have the experience.
Yeah, so we actually had it in the early days. We were a very small team. There was maybe 4 or 5 of us, and one of the key team members left. And then a couple of weeks later, took the other team or one of the other team members with them.
Right.
Which contractually was not okay, but the mistake we made is we just let it slide and basically let people walk all over us. Which it was really just a case of not knowing what to do and not knowing the powers that we could have had or what we could have enforced at that stage. I regret just letting people walk over us like that. Fortunately, unfortunately, I'd already offered someone else a job to start in a month's time, and at this point, I was this close to giving up. In fact, I was going to just sack the whole thing off. We lost a load of business at the same time. It was an absolute nightmare. But I'd already offered this job to a guy who had accepted and handed in his notice in the other place.
Okay.
That was Jake, who's now our director of client services and has been with us ever since.
Okay.
What's this, 3-4 years ago now?
Yeah.
So having that accountability of him coming on board kept me in the game, and I don't think Kurugo would exist today if I hadn't offered him that role.
Right. So it actually worked out okay. So you just said there you were almost at the point where you were going to give up. So what level had you got to at that stage in the business?
We're probably doing 15, 20K a month.
And a couple of accounts got lost.
We lost a third of our business in the first week of January.
Okay.
And we just had 2 of our 5 team members leave, I think were the numbers.
Okay. That sounds like it's like a lot.
It was a rough Christmas.
Yeah, I bet. And what did you do then? Like, how did you manage to turn that around in time? Particularly when you've got responsibilities of employees and salaries. Like you said, you've got other people's responsibilities and now yours.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, we've always had a fairly good pipeline of new business.
Yeah.
Because I've always built my personal brand, it has constantly delivered new clients every single month since I started. Probably count on one hand the number of months where we've not signed a new client. So having that pipeline of demand really was the fuel that kept us going. And without that, if we weren't able to bring more clients on, again, we probably wouldn't exist today. So having that constant stream of new people that are interested in the business it's kind of like an insurance policy. It is like the fuel that you use to operate. I think everything becomes easier if you have that in place. You can be a bit more predictable about everything you do.
What are some of the things that you do intentionally to help you build that business?
So I think having that credible like paper trail, I think that you found when you were doing the research is really important, because the truth is your prospects or anyone you send a message to will research you. They will Google your name.
The first thing I did, right?
They will check your profile.
Yeah.
Right? And you probably saw a few things. You probably saw some podcast interviews.
Yeah,
you
many.
probably saw 40, 50 odd thousand followers.
I did, yeah.
And these are kind of stamps of credibility.
So true. It was the perfect example of it. Yeah.
100%. And that gets you the conversation. That buys you the opportunity. And so having a really credible paper trail of information about you online. A lot of people think, oh, but what if I haven't had loads of podcast appearances? What if I don't have years and years of experience? Everyone will have some form of credibility that they can put on their profiles online. So whatever social profiles it is, whether it's LinkedIn, even if it's your Instagram or your Facebook, make sure they reflect someone that's credible in this space. So that's kind of your entry ticket, if you like. I have a few non-negotiable things that I will do every single week, every single month to make sure we're constantly building my brand, the team's brand, and the pipeline.
Okay.
Biggest one is I post on LinkedIn every day.
Right.
And I've done that for probably 4 years. If you can't do every day, do a minimum of 2 to 3 times a week.
And is that every day, including weekends?
Including weekends for me.
And do you batch your content? Yeah. You do?
Batch my content, yeah. So I always create a week in advance.
Okay.
So that day to day, I don't have to think about it.
How long does that take you, Sam?
Anywhere from 30 minutes on a good day to 2 hours on a bad day.
For all of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But this is someone that's been doing it for
okay,
4
I love
years,
that.
right?
So no, but this is really good. So tangibly, the first thing we've got is your non-negotiable is you post every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Post every single day, because that way I know I'm going to reach at least 2,000 people a day are going to hear from me.
Mm-hmm.
I connect with 100 prospects every week. So
Love
every
that.
week you can send 100 connection requests on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
that means that every week.
Do you send a note? This is this is such a topic, isn't it? Do you write a note with it?
No, I actually don't.
Yeah.
Not with the outreach message.
No, I don't. Yeah.
Not with the connection request, sorry. Because I think if you send a note, people are instantly going to think, what does this guy want?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I send a blank connection request, knowing that the credibility we've already got on my profile is probably going to get them to accept.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Even if, let's be conservative, 20% of them accept. I still know I've got 20 new ICPs in my network every week. That's
Excellent.
80 a month.
Yeah.
So that combined with content going out means there's at least 80 new potential clients hearing from me, learning about us every single week.
Okay.
Those two things, if you do nothing else, you will probably get a client from just doing that.
Do you have a minimum number of DMs you send in a day?
Not minimum number of DMs.
Okay. No. Is that part of the strategy at all?
Yeah. So what we've started doing now is highly bespoke outreach. So we run this across myself and one of, sales manager, who's also building his personal brand. This is another big hack. It's not just me now in the business doing this. There are 4, 5, 6 people from Kurugo posting every single day.
Yeah, I can almost think of who some of them are. Yeah,
exactly right. So now we do highly bespoke outreach through our profiles.
Yeah.
So rather than doing the generic, hey name, we're Kurugo, this is what we do, that everybody's sending, we will send a 2-minute loop with their profile on the screen saying, look, we've seen your profile. This is where we think the errors are. This is what we would do. We think you should build your brand like this. By the way, we've done this for 350 people. You can imagine the acceptance rate on those messages, or the response rate on those messages is pretty high.
Okay.
So we run that bespoke outreach. We try and send at least 10 to 20 of those every single week as well. We then have a few more things that we do each week and each month. So we create a lead magnet each month. So every month
it's really helpful. Yeah.
a lead magnet where we can capture emails, addresses, and contact information from people who are interested. Anyone who accesses those lead magnets is pretty much putting up the hand and saying, hey, Sam, I have the problem you solve and I'm interested in building my personal brand.
Yeah.
These are interested leads. We then send 2 emails a week to nurture those people. So everyone that downloads a lead magnet goes into our email list where they then hear from us twice a week.
Right. It's like a nurture sequence that's set up just for them. Yeah.
Exactly. All of this content, by the way, the lead magnets, the LinkedIn posts, the newsletters, it's all value driven.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly providing value to them. It's not sales all the time.
Yeah.
Yes, we have to sell, right? We've got to sign clients at the end of the day. So there is sales messaging embedded into it, but it's value driven. And the reason for that is with your audience, 60% plus, they're never going to buy.
Yeah.
Most people disregard that audience and think they don't matter. But those are the ones that are going to advocate for you. They're going to like your content, leave a comment. They're going to refer you to people that might buy. So yes, we're engineering for the ones that are ready to buy now, but we also want to make sure that anyone that's not ready to buy now becomes an advocate for the business.
So going from those, when you finally got yourselves back up to those like 50K months, what role would you say has been most transformative, or what roles in the business now getting to a place where you're talking about 1 to 1.5 million revenue next year?
Head of client services
was
probably the biggest one. So Jake that I mentioned before, he became head of client services. He's now director of client services. That removed me from pretty much all of the client delivery. And that had a few benefits. Firstly, it removed a lot of emotion out of my week.
Yeah.
Because I think as a founder, when you're working with clients, you're so emotionally tied to them, and any kind of negative feedback you get hits you a little bit harder because it's your business. Whereas Jake still really cares about the business, but is a little bit more objective. So it's quite a nice filter. So removing that kind of emotional strain allowed me to have more energy, make better decisions, and just operate better as a founder and CEO. Also, of course, gave me a lot of time back. So I've, until very recently, run our entire marketing and sales function up until this year because I thought I was the best at selling it, which was probably true. Right? I was the best person in the business to do that. So it freed up a lot of time for me to create the content, create the lead magnets, write the emails.
Right, you were doing all of that side. Yeah.
Exactly. So that head of client services role saved me time and emotional strain, which I think is 2 of the most valuable things you can have back as a founder.
I agree. Yeah. And when we think about the way in which you work, so there was a couple of things that I picked up when I was doing my very detailed level of research. And one of the things was that you said, we want to do almost like we want to do the extraordinary for our clients. We want to go over and above. And you were talking about actually you have some clients who are amazing, but actually are quite demanding. So how do you balance that with boundaries and also I think the word you used was over delivery. We like to over deliver. That was the word that you used. What does that mean to you? And how do you balance that with boundaries and somebody maybe, not respecting what they have paid for?
Yeah. So one thing we set out now with all of our clients is a very clear scope of work.
Right.
So it's super clear from the off, contractually, this is what you're paying and these are the things we have to deliver and will deliver. So that's in writing. There's no confusion about what those things are. There's no debate there. We're not going to stop at that, but the client is aware from the get-go exactly what we are delivering, and we've sold that specifically. So I think it's about expectation setting, first of all. We also have a flexible working model, which adds a little bit of complication. So the team aren't necessarily stuck to a rigid 9 to 5.
Yeah.
We have people working in different time zones from different locations. It does add some complexity, but we make sure our clients know, look, these are our core hours that we typically work. Please be aware that some team members will work outside of these. You can message us whenever you want.
Yeah.
We get that a busy founder is going to want to send a voice note on a Saturday morning.
Sure.
It's going to happen. But we just say, look, we'll reply to you within 3 working hours of our time, right? So they might not get a response straight away on a Saturday, but come Monday morning, we'll be straight in there and responding to it. So there's quite clear expectations with the clients around that. And then I think it becomes cultural. You have to create the right culture of people not feeling like they have to be checking their phones at 2 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon.
And you're talking about staff.
This is staff, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because I don't want my staff feeling like they have to do that.
No.
But I do expect my staff to respond within 3 hours when it's the working week.
Yeah.
And not leave a client on red. So it's about having really clear expectations with staff as well.
Do you have to, at this stage now, because it sounds like the ship feels like it's much steadier, do difficult conversations still have to be had as the team grows to like 19?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But I think the team we've got now, I've never felt more confident in. It's a much more mature team than we had this time last year. It's an ambitious team. I think everyone's bought into the vision of the business, and I feel really optimistic about where this team can go. Of course, we still have disagreements. There are still problems that arise. It's natural when you've got 19 people and all of the different relationships between them. But we're adults at the end of the day, and I think we almost didn't act like adults for some of the first few years.
Yeah.
We acted our age, but now we're a lot more mature about it. And me and the senior team, we can, we'll have a pretty heated debate and then settle on it 5 minutes later, be back to normal again. And I think that's healthy.
Yeah. And when we think about your last recruits, so less about the individual, more about the roles, what's changed about the way in which you in the business are recruiting now? Because you were saying actually there's more of a level of responsibility and maturity as individuals as well. Has there anything changed for you?
I think the standard goes up with every single hiring round.
Yeah.
Which is something I've noticed. We're looking for people who can come in and not just do a job, but people that can raise the standard. And I think we've definitely found that in the last few people that we've brought on board. We don't expect them to know everything and know how we run and be better than everyone else at everything. But if there's just 1 or 2 areas they can come in and raise a standard or bring something new, we love that. And the notice period is actually something that I find really interesting as well. I used to see a notice period when you just hire someone as, you're going to pass unless you do something drastically wrong.
Yeah.
Almost treating a notice period now as convince us to keep you. It's a good mindset to have, in my opinion.
Right. So almost, you talk about the probationary period, right?
Yeah, sorry, not notice period.
Probationary period. Yeah.
It sounds harsh, but I think if you want to build a great business, those are the standards you have to set.
What do you look for when you're recruiting to identify that someone has that standout way of thinking?
I never look at CVs.
Okay, this is interesting.
I don't know any of my team's grades. I couldn't tell you most of them if they went to uni, which uni they went to, what school they went to. I don't care about that.
Yeah.
Because for me, 90% of CVs look 90% the same anyway.
Yeah.
You can lie on them and people aren't really going to fact check it.
Yeah.
For me, what's far more convincing is, has someone been posting on LinkedIn for the last 6 months?
Yeah.
That to me is a much better indicator that they're interested in the industry.
Yeah, because you want them to walk the walk, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or have they taken initiative and started an Instagram page or a blog or done some sort of extracurricular activity outside of their education or their career that suggests there's someone who will take responsibility. That for me is the biggest thing, because I think it is walking the walk. It's not just talk, which 90% of people are.
So you look for online.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else that you're looking for? Are you looking for really creative ways? Because I think this is interesting for people, is if you are looking to join somewhere that you're inspired by, or whether you are looking to recruit, you know, are you looking for somebody to send you a really creative application?
Yeah, this is the other
are
thing.
you?
So if they do
Okay.
something outside of the norm in the application process, again, that's a very positive indication
Right.
that there's someone that takes ownership, takes responsibility, is willing to go the extra mile. All the basic stuff as well, like be on time for the interview. It's shocking how many people aren't on time for the interview. I want someone that asks us questions in the interview as well. I think an interview is as much us interviewing the candidate as it is the candidate interviewing us. And if they're keen to make sure we're the right company for them, that's a great sign as well. So I want them to ask about the future of the business, where we see it going, what our biggest struggles are at the moment. I encourage people to talk about that. I also think in interviews, you need to be a bit more confident. A lot of people are so scared of coming across arrogant that they don't do themselves justice. You should be talking about what you're good at, showing evidence of it. Those are all big things for me in an interview that signal we've got the right person.
Okay. And when it comes to your personal brand, and I guess this will be for the people that we've just spoken about with your team, you speak about the importance with personal branding of strong opinions. When it comes to your own personal brand, what is the line that you won't cross them?
In terms of the content that I publish?
In terms of what you're putting out there. Yeah. What topics won't you talk about?
I don't tend to talk about things that are overly contentious.
Yeah.
Politics, race, religion.
Yeah.
Because firstly, I don't have loads to say on those things anyway. Like politics, you shouldn't listen to me about politics. I don't know enough. Right?
Yeah.
So I don't have educated things to say on them, but I also think you can't really win with those. Unless that is your lane and your industry. My personal advice, stay out of it.
Yeah.
And I also just try not to talk about things that I'm not qualified to talk about. You'll never see me giving life advice to 40-year-olds because I'm not well positioned to give that advice. I have never been through that experience. So I try and ensure that everything I'm publishing comes from some level of personal experience.
So that was interesting. I won't give life advice to a 40-year-old, but in terms of business then, so yeah, actually this is quite interesting. However, in terms of business, you're working with founders who may have been running in business for a really long time, but they probably haven't achieved what they wanted to achieve with their personal brand. So how do you marry that up? Because I'm sure there's some people like, oh, you know, I can see you guys know what you're doing, but you actually haven't been around for so long. So how do you marry those two?
I treat them as completely separate, right? So most of our clients, in fact, all of our clients run better businesses than I do.
Okay.
And they are better entrepreneurs and business people than I am. But my personal brand, at least when they start working with us, is stronger than theirs.
Brilliant.
So that gives me the credibility to teach them how to build a personal brand. And in fact, it shows them what's possible with their personal brand. If I can build mine to the level it is with 5 years experience, imagine what they could do with 30.
Right. Okay. Brilliant. Yeah. I love that angle there. And you know, when you think about yourself, because obviously this whole podcast is don't work harder, right? And I always think it's interesting when I'm speaking to entrepreneurs, because clearly the one thing that most of us do is actually work really hard. But I think what we try and do here when we have these conversations is really speak about the fact that hard work alone is not enough. So when we think about your journey, yes, your success, I know you say relatively, but you're here on the podcast with us. Obviously, I saw something in you. What do you think it is alongside hard work that has meant that you are a credible business and a credible individual to be able to be talking to others about what you have achieved? What is it then?
I think getting other people on your side is a big help. I look self-made, bootstrapped, never taken a small loan of $1 million from my parents, didn't have loads and loads of experience in a big network beforehand, but I'm far from it. I have had support from a huge number of clients, mentors, friends that give you advice, open doors for you, and building relationships with those people, I think, is probably the biggest factor other than the volume of work that's got us to where we are today.
I think relationships is a really interesting one, because when I did do that search, the very first time I came across you, the first thing that I saw was who you were connected to. And they were people that I knew and I respected and that had credibility. How intentional has building your network been in building your business?
I don't go out and deliberately network because I think I can get something from someone.
Yeah.
I go out with the intention of speaking to interesting people that I'm going to get along with.
Yeah,
and if
which
we can
I love,
help each
yeah.
other, then great, right? So I think, and the more success that I've had, the more I've noticed people do that to you. And it's so obvious when people are reaching out to you just because they want something from you.
Yeah.
So I think you have to always go out and think mutually. And the relationship has to come quite naturally. You can't force it with every single person. Some people you naturally get along with a little bit more, but those are the ones that I think you should double down on and really build relationships with, rather than just trying to go out and get something from everyone.
And you have said a lot about, at the very beginning when I was saying, you're 26, and do you ever think about the level of success you had? And you said, well, I'm lucky enough to be in rooms where actually there are people who I see as having even greater levels of success. So when we think about successful people, what is it that you see as a reoccurring theme that success looks like? What do successful people do?
They create a really clear identity of who they need to be in order to achieve the things they want to.
Yeah.
I think this is the single biggest difference that the most successful people seem to understand. It's not just about your goals, because if it was just about your goals, everyone would be successful, right? The 10 people lining up in a 100-meter race, their goal is all to win the race, but only one person wins, right? So it's not necessarily about the level of your goals. It's who you actually are as a person, the kind of person that you are. So for example, right, people have hugely ambitious goals, but are they the kind of people that are going to do focused work for a few hours every single day? Are they the kind of people that are, if it's health-based goals, are they going to be in the gym every day? You have to be that kind of person. And for me, all of the most successful people I've met have that nailed.
And then when you think about the business that you're building, what's the future vision of what you want that business to be able to do? Is this about infinite scale? Is this potentially about it being sold? Have you an idea of where you would want to take the business?
Yeah, so from the start, we've always said we want to be the best personal branding agency, or the go-to personal branding agency in the world. I think we're not quite there yet, but we're certainly on the right path. Some people perhaps hold us in that regard. I think we've got a little bit to go first. And I will run this business until I think I'm not the best person to run it anymore. At that point, I'll likely step aside. And if there's an exit, there's an exit. If it's handing over to the team, then that's what I'll do. But I will run it until I don't think I'm the best person to do so.
And you rebranded really quite early on.
Yeah.
So I've asked you about 3 times how you say the name. So talk me through it. So it's a Japanese name.
It's a Japanese term, Kurugo.
Kurugo.
And it comes from Japanese theatre. So the Kogo in Japanese theatre are like stage hands. So they move things around the back of a set.
How did you know this?
Honestly, I got into some weird Google searches.
Right, okay, clearly, yeah.
So they move all the props around, but they wear all black
yeah.
fitting or whatever the
yeah,
colour
I know,
of the back
both
of the
of us,
set
right?
is,
yeah.
right? So you can't actually see them on stage, and that's kind of what we are to our clients.
Okay, love that.
We're making the main acts look good, the client.
Excellent.
The idea is we don't get noticed. We were called Brandly before, which is just a name I came up with in my garden.
So there was a different name.
Yes.
Yeah, Brandly,
and
very different. Yeah.
It was actually Lewis Baxter, who's been our COO for, years now. He was the one that came and said, look, Brandly needs to go. This is not a strong brand. It doesn't do your vision justice. So we spent a few weeks just brainstorming new names and brands. I stumbled across Kurugo and I was like, yeah, that's it. That's the one. People seem to like it.
Yeah, I mean, I really like it. It's just making sure I say it right. But yeah, I really like it. And with personal branding, when you get to a certain level, so, you've talked about 40,000 plus for yourself, you'll be working with people, some of whom are at 0, some of whom are at a bigger level. What do you do differently later on that you don't necessarily do at the beginning?
Yeah, so at the beginning, really you're just focused on getting to your first 10,000 followers. online. I think once you reach that level, 10,000 itself is an arbitrary number, but it's a relatively
Feels
good
good when you
indicator
get there, right?
yeah.
Finally, yeah.
It's a good indicator, I think. You're solely focused on getting to that level. The struggle you have is that not enough people know who you are.
Right.
So when you're just getting started, more of your content is geared towards growing your audience and getting people to know who you are.
Okay.
Once you get towards the 30, 40, 50,000 follower mark, you have a huge audience already. And for a lot of people, it becomes about building more authority with them. Ideally, you always want to be doing both at the same time.
Yeah.
So you always want to be building your audience and building authority. But the focus when you're just getting started is more on the growth side. Whereas when you're at 50 or 1,000 followers, it's more on the authority side. That's probably the biggest difference.
Yeah, that's actually really valuable to hear. And is there anything that you do for yourself that you wouldn't advise others to do?
Hosting 7 times a week at the start.
Yeah.
Get in the habit of doing 2 or 3 times and then start getting up to 4 or 5. That's probably a big one.
And from a leadership point of view then, Sam, if we think about the future Sam and the type of leader you want to be and the type of personal brand you want to be, what does that vision look like for you? And what do you need to do to get there?
In terms of leader, I want to be someone that leads by example. So, I'm not always going to be the loudest voice in the room. I'm probably not the person in the business that my team would come to and say, look, I'm really struggling with this outside of work. That's not really my lane. That's not what people know me as.
Yeah.
But I want to be the one that if we have a principle or a value, I'm the one that lives and breathes it.
Yeah.
I am the kind of walking embodiment of Kurugo, if you like. So from a leadership point of view, definitely that. From a personal brand point of view, I think a big thing for me is, or the challenge I always have is, how does a 26-year-old build trust with the 50-year-old that's been in business for 30 years? So more and more my attention is on building trust with those people and positioning myself as someone that they can listen to. I almost have to step out of this young up and coming character that people kind of buy into because he's over succeeding or overachieving for his age. I kind of have to step out of that and be someone that can talk to them on a mutual level, which is a challenge in itself. But a lot of the content we publish now and the way I'm positioned is designed to do that.
And that was the exact question I was going to ask you, was the how question. So how would you make that shift? I mean, you're sat here with me, so you're doing all right with hanging out with the 50-year-olds.
It's a privilege to be.
You're doing good. So tell me, how would you do that then? You kind of just touched on it there, but I think it's a really important point to just touch on. How would you tangibly make that shift?
Yeah, so one is in the positioning. So when you look at my LinkedIn profile, for example, the language is not as excitable, not as youthful anymore. It's almost more grounded and considered. The content I put out is not necessarily about going viral all the time. It's a lot more mature and nuanced, because I think nuance is important for that slightly older, more mature audience. It's definitely important. So it's largely in the language used. The topics I talk about are not entirely different.
Yeah.
So what I was talking about 5 years ago, I've been speaking about personal brand for 5 years, but it's just the way you articulate things that's changing.
And believe it or not, we are kind of coming to a close. But I think there's one question that is always quite important to ask, which is, what is the harder reality that people don't realize about an entrepreneur with a team of the size that you have and with the scale of the revenue that you guys are heading towards? What do you think people don't realize?
There is no off.
Yeah.
You are always on. Whether you're working or not, you're always on. And it does take its toll to some extent.
Building a business of this level, though, that's the thing, isn't it? And actually, you and I at an event where Daniel Priestley was talking about exactly that topic. So this is very interesting because you're being really honest here and saying, this is always a part of my life. It's my business.
Yeah, it is. And I guess the ugly side of that I'm not necessarily proud of is that you'll be out with friends or you'll be at a family meal and they're having a conversation and you look like you're listening, but in the back of your head you're going, I've got this problem on Monday that I can solve, or what are we going to do with this client or this team member? You're always thinking about it, which I'm not proud to admit, but it's the truth.
And what can you put in place to slightly alleviate that when a founder is at that level?
One thing I've started doing just recently actually is at the end of the day, I have like a off routine.
Okay.
So everyone has this morning routine of how they get started.
Yeah, I don't know about an off routine. Tell me about
mine's
it.
pretty quick in the morning. I just get straight into work. But in the evening, I make sure I'm on inbox 0. So I cover off any emails I had. If I can't respond to them, then I'll snooze them.
Yeah.
So they're not actually like unread in my inbox until the next day.
Yeah.
Slack digest. So we use Slack internally.
Yeah.
I get a Slack digest of everything that's happened that day in the channels. I make sure all of my to-do lists and like trackers, we track a lot of numbers in the business. I make sure they're completely squared off.
Mm-hmm.
I pack my bag for tomorrow. And that I kind of know like I'm off now.
Yeah.
I'm not checking emails, Slack and WhatsApp again, essentially.
And you physically in an office?
No, this is literally
right. But from your own space,
yeah.
right? Okay, yeah. So you actually kind of like separate it. Okay, amazing.
I'm still working in, subconsciously.
Yeah.
But I won't be checking emails anymore.
Yeah, you won't be at your desk.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. So Sam, we have covered a lot of stuff, right? And I really appreciate you kind of giving us the tangible, breaking it down for us. Before we kind of close with something a little bit lighter around a bit of a tradition we have here about what you like to read, listen and watch, I would love to put you through our atomic clock. So we have this atomic clock where we'll put 60 seconds on the clock. I'm going to ask you a question. We kind of already covered it, but it was one of the questions that got sent in. And then you've got 60 seconds. I promise it's not going to be that hard, but I'm building it up to like give me an answer. Right. Are you ready?
60 seconds to answer it or to think about the answer?
No, to answer it. And I'll keep an eye on my watch. Yeah. So the question is, I promise it's really easy. This is a question that was sent in. What's the order of priority when you're building credibility from scratch? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Let's go. 60 seconds.
So the first thing you want to build out is what we call a promise statement. So a promise statement tells your audience why they should care in the first place. You want to touch on a few things. Who you're targeting, so your ICP, the transformation you take them on, so what problem you solve for them and what goal or desire you get them towards. And then you want to solve an objection in this promise as well. So they'll always have objections to working with you. You want to try and pre-solve some of those. If I was a personal trainer, I might say, I'll help you lose 9 pounds in the next 6 months without going on any ridiculous diets. Right, so that's a great promise. Instantly, my audience's ears are pricked up. Okay. The next thing you need to build out is a proof statement. So the question said credibility from scratch. Yeah. There will always be some level of proof that you have that you are good at what you do. It could be a milestone, a result, a personal experience, somewhere that you featured. That's the next thing to really build trust with people and prove that you know what you're talking about. How am I doing?
You did so well. You've got 10 seconds.
Oh, well, what should we talk about for the remaining 10?
You good? That was brilliant. I knew you would get that. Okay.
Yeah, so promise and proof.
Yeah, so promise and proof are the two things. But I think what you just said there for me was very interesting, which is you might think you're from scratch, but there'll be some proof and some credibility. Yeah. Amazing. I literally had no doubt that you would be able to deliver on that. You did very well. Thank you so much, Sam. So just in closing, really, you've been very generous in talking about your business and what you've built and kind of the steps that you've taken. Let's just close with a little bit of information about you. Tell me, if you have any time, what are you reading, listening to and watching right now? And it can be business or non-business related.
So I've just picked up a book actually from last night called The Lifestyle Entrepreneur.
Okay, that was very smooth.
Which is going to be my next read.
Yeah, tell us the book again. Book. Sorry, I spoke over you.
It's The Lifestyle Entrepreneur. That's the title.
Lifestyle Business Playbook by Daniel Priestley. Yeah, very good. Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of Dan's work. I think he's done great, and his last few books have been brilliant. So I'll give that a read. Okay. To understand that playbook again. Watching. What am I watching at the moment? I read a lot of roundtables about AI at the moment. Wow. I find it fascinating. There's a great Y Combinator one talking about how to build moats around AI, which I think is pretty important for
that's what you're watching.
Almost every business owner right now.
I thought you were going to say I'm a celebrity, but no he's watching AI roundtables.
Yes,
okay,
not
love
like
it.
Most 26-year-olds.
Yeah, exactly. And the music. Do you listen to anything?
I love jazz, you know.
Do you?
I'm a big fan of jazz, yeah.
Okay.
Strong musical influence from my parents.
Okay.
Jazz is a favourite of mine.
Fantastic. Sam, thank you so much for coming on. It was a real pleasure to speak to you.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that was an interesting conversation, wasn't it? And I think particularly from my viewpoint, like someone as twice Sam's age who is a lot later in life that I've kind of identified where I'm at and where I fit. And yet here is Sam. He's never worked for anyone. He is running a team of 19, and he's really truthful about the fact that he's not really able to truly switch off at the level of business that he has. But he's got some really good habits in there, not just in his content and in his outreach, but also for himself in how he operates and the standards he sets for his employees on his team. So another very, very interesting conversation and a lot of tangible takeaways for us there. Thanks so much for listening to Don't Work Harder. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe and share. This show has been brought to you by Atomic, the home of epic business growth. Head to our website at atomic.site to hear more about our business programs and epic events.